In a swirl of controversy surrounding Elon Musk and his recent advisory role in the Trump administration, the White House has clarified that Musk is not in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE. Instead, he serves as a senior advisor to President Donald Trump. This distinction holds significant implications as the administration faces legal challenges related to DOGE's access to federal government data and workforce reduction initiatives. The clarification comes at a critical time when the Trump administration is embroiled in a lawsuit filed by several Democratic states which claims that Musk is wielding virtually unchecked power in accessing sensitive government information. The plaintiffs argue that such authority held by someone who was neither elected nor Senate-confirmed violates constitutional norms. In a court filing, Joshua Fisher, director of the White House Office of Administration, emphasized that Musk does not have the authority to make governmental decisions independently, stating Musk is not a DOGE employee and has no actual authority to make government decisions himself. This legal battle highlights the complexities of Musk's involvement with DOGE, which has been tasked with scrutinizing federal agencies for waste, fraud, and inefficiencies. While Musk has publicly championed the mission of DOGE on his social media platform X, the administration's insistence that he is merely an advisor could serve as a strategic defensive move against the ongoing lawsuit. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt further elaborated on Musk's role, asserting that he operates under the direction of President Trump and that layoffs within federal agencies are ultimately the responsibility of individual agency heads. This claim seemingly contradicts previous statements from Trump, who has publicly suggested that Musk is overseeing the DOGE initiative. The implications of Musk's role extend beyond administrative titles. The DOGE initiative has attracted criticism for its aggressive push to streamline federal operations, including proposed layoffs of thousands of federal employees. Legal experts have raised alarms about the potential risks associated with Musk's access to sensitive information, particularly regarding the Treasury Department and other financial agencies. He called for the elimination of entire federal agencies, a controversial stance that has drawn both support and criticism. Made during a press briefing and on social media have sparked widespread scrutiny and confusion over the actual state of improper payments within the Social Security Administration (SSA). During a press conference in Florida, Trump claimed that millions and millions of people over 100 years old are receiving Social Security benefits, labeling the situation as a glaring issue of fraud or incompetence. Musk chimed in with a provocative commentary on social media, suggesting that there might even be vampires collecting these checks, asserting that the records include individuals who have been dead for centuries. These assertions, however, have been met with pushback from experts and officials who emphasize the exaggerated nature of the claims. While it is true that improper payments have occurred, particularly to deceased individuals, the numbers cited by Trump and Musk are significantly overstated. A report from the SSA's Inspector General noted that from 2015 to 2022, the agency distributed nearly $8.6 trillion in benefits, with just $71.8 billion, or less than 1%, classified as improper payments. Most of these improper payments were overpayments to living beneficiaries rather than payments made to deceased individuals. The confusion over the alleged payments to the deceased is partly attributed to the SSA's long-standing use of the COBOL programming language, which has limitations that can lead to erroneous data entries. For instance, missing or incomplete birth dates may default to dates that imply the individual is over 150 years old. The SSA has identified approximately 18.9 million Social Security numbers belonging to individuals born in 1920 or earlier that are not marked as deceased, but reports indicate that almost none of these individuals are currently receiving benefits. Experts warned that the propagation of misinformation regarding Social Security payments could have severe implications. Chuck Blahus, a senior research strategist at the Mercatus Center, commented, "By all means, go after any improper payments that are found, but let's not pretend that's where the system's biggest financial problems are." He noted that improper payment rates in Medicaid, for example, are significantly higher than those in Social Security, underscoring the need for a more nuanced understanding of the complexities involved.
Economist Sita Nadaraj Slavov echoed these sentiments, expressing concern that the oversimplified narrative could deceive the public into believing that easy fixes exist for the financial problems facing Social Security.
The real concern is that this claim may mislead people into thinking there's an easy fix to Social Security's financial problems, she warned. In response to the ongoing discourse, Caroline Levitt, a spokesperson for the White House, reiterated the importance of addressing fraud and waste within the system, referencing the Inspector General's report as a basis for further investigations. As this dialogue unfolds, it is clear that the implications of such high-profile claims extend beyond mere statistics. They touch upon the broader issues of trust in government institutions and the necessity for accurate information in public discourse. The fallout from these statements may lead to renewed scrutiny of the Social Security system and its management practices, which could potentially influence future policy discussions and reforms. Looking ahead, it remains to be seen how the ongoing investigations into improper payments will reshape public perception and what measures will be taken to enhance transparency and efficiency within the Social Security Administration. As the discourse evolves, the need for clear, fact-based communication will be crucial in navigating the complexities of federal benefits and ensuring that the public remains informed. In a development that highlights the intersection of technology and governance, the White House has clarified Elon Musk's role in the recently formed Department of Government Efficiency DOGE. Contrary to public perceptions and statements made by President Donald Trump, Musk is not the administrator of DOGE but serves as a senior advisor to the president. This distinction could prove crucial as legal challenges mount against the administration's efforts to overhaul federal agencies. On February 11, 2025, Musk was pictured alongside Trump in the Oval Office, fueling speculation about his influence over the DOGE initiative, which aims to cut federal spending by targeting perceived inefficiencies across various government departments. However, the administration's recent court filings emphasized that Musk lacks formal authority over the operations of DOGE, a position that could serve as a defensive strategy against lawsuits initiated by several Democratic states. These states argue that Musk possesses virtually unchecked power despite not being elected or Senate-confirmed, a claim that raises constitutional concerns. Joshua Fisher, director of the White House Office of Administration, made it clear in court documents that Musk does not make governmental decisions independently. Elon Musk, just like everybody else across the federal government, works at the direction of President Trump, Fisher asserted. The ongoing legal proceedings will determine whether Musk and DOGE can access sensitive government data as they pursue their efficiency agenda, which has already begun to result in significant layoffs across federal agencies. The scrutiny is intensifying as U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan expressed skepticism towards the administration's stance during a recent hearing. She questioned the assertion that Musk's involvement is purely advisory, suggesting that the court may need to carefully consider the implications of his role within DOGE. This legal backdrop underscores a broader conversation about the blending of private sector influence and governmental authority, particularly as Musk has publicly advocated for drastic cuts to federal agencies, even suggesting the elimination of entire departments. As the Trump administration navigates these legal waters, the implications of Musk's involvement could reverberate beyond the courtroom. The future of DOGE and its initiatives remains uncertain as legal battles unfold. The administration's aggressive approach to restructuring the federal landscape may continue to provoke challenges both in court and from public advocacy groups. As this situation develops, it will be essential to observe how the intertwining of technology, private enterprise, and public policy evolves in the context of governance. The outcome of these legal disputes will likely have lasting ramifications for the relationship between federal agencies and external advisors, particularly in an era increasingly defined by technological advancement and digital influence. As the United States approaches a pivotal election year, a convergence of economic concerns and political strategies is shaping public sentiment. Recent polls indicate a notable decline in President Donald Trump's approval ratings, driven largely by Americans' growing anxieties about the economy. This dip in support comes at a time when Trump is aggressively pursuing a trade and economic agenda that some analysts argue is reminiscent of 19th-century policies, raising concerns about its viability in today's interconnected global landscape. According to a report by Reuters published on February 19, 2025, Trump's approval rating has fallen as citizens express increasing worry about economic stability. In which columnist Thomas L. Friedman critiques Trump's tariff-heavy strategy. Friedman argues that the president's approach lacks coherent rationale and risks alienating vital trade partners. He notes Trump is threatening to impose tariffs on rivals and allies alike without any satisfactory explanation. This haphazard strategy, Friedman contends, could have disastrous consequences for American industries and consumers alike, particularly in the automotive sector where cross-border supply chains are critical. Friedman further elaborates on the complexity of modern economies, emphasizing the necessity of global cooperation. He references economist Eric Beinhocker's assertion that there is no longer a singular American economy but rather an intricate web of global ecosystems. There's just this accounting fiction that we call US GDP. Beinhocker states, highlighting the collaborative nature required to produce complex products from smartphones to automobiles. Indeed, the interdependence of economies is more pronounced than ever, with supply chains intricately woven across borders. American car manufacturers, for instance, rely heavily on parts produced in neighboring countries. The potential imposition of tariffs could disrupt these established networks, leading to higher costs and diminished competitiveness in the global market. As Ford CEO Jim Farley cautioned, long-term a 25% tariff across the Mexico and Canada borders would blow a hole in the U.S. industry that we've never seen. In contrast, a commentary from Bloomberg reflects on how Trump's economic missteps may parallel those of his predecessor, President Joe Biden, suggesting that both administrations risk making similar errors in judgment regarding trade and tariffs. The implications of these policies are far-reaching, as they not only affect domestic industries but also the global economic landscape, which is characterized by an ever-evolving interplay of competition and collaboration. As the political landscape continues to shift, the forthcoming months will be crucial. The interplay between economic policies and public sentiment will undoubtedly influence the upcoming elections. With many Americans expressing concerns over inflation and economic security, the challenge for Trump and his administration will be to regain public trust and provide a clear, coherent economic strategy that resonates with voters. The trajectory of Trump's approval ratings, shaped by public perception of economic health and policy effectiveness, will serve as a bellwether for the administration's future. As the election draws near, it becomes increasingly clear that the complexities of the global economy demand a nuanced approach that transcends 19th-century ideologies, and the effectiveness of such strategies could define the political landscape for years to come. In the ever-evolving landscape of global security and defense, a series of recent developments signal a potential shift in the balance of power and strategy, particularly concerning Europe. With the anticipated firings within the U.S. Defense Department and the return of Donald Trump to the political forefront, European nations are being compelled to rethink their defense strategies and foster a greater sense of independence from American military support. Officials have indicated that the Defense Department is likely to commence a series of firings in the near future, a move that could disrupt existing military operations and strategies. This shakeup comes at a time when the U.S. is recalibrating its focus away from Europe and toward the Indo-Pacific, a trend initiated during Barack Obama's presidency. The ramifications of this shift are profound, as both Republican and Democratic establishments increasingly view China as the primary strategic rival, while Russia remains a significant concern yet often relegated to the background. In light of these changes, European leaders are recognizing the urgency to enhance their defense capabilities and reduce their reliance on NATO, a military alliance that has historically provided a security umbrella for EU nations. As articulated in a recent opinion piece by Guy Verhofstadt and Dominic Ruiz de Besa, the current geopolitical climate presents an opportunity for the European Union to establish a robust European defense union. They argue that while the EU has made strides in its common security and defense policy, the bloc must now confront the reality of its defense dependencies and take decisive action to forge a cohesive security strategy. One of the driving forces behind this urgent need for reform is the unpredictability of Trump's foreign policy approach. Characterized by a skepticism of NATO and a tendency to threaten allies who do not meet defense spending benchmarks. This unpredictability has left European nations contemplating the potential consequences of a diminished U.S. presence in Europe, particularly in scenarios involving Russian aggression in Eastern Europe. The authors emphasize that the EU must move beyond ad hoc military responses and instead develop a comprehensive defense planning and command structure that integrates the national armies of its member states. The economic implications of these shifts are equally significant. As the EU grapples with the need for enhanced defense spending, currently EU member countries spend only a third of what the US allocates. There is a pressing need for better resource allocation and collaboration among EU nations. According to the European Defense Agency, the fragmentation of defense spending across national lines results in an annual loss of approximately €25 billion. To address this, the authors advocate for a pooling and sharing approach to defense resources, emphasizing joint research, development, and procurement of military assets. Interestingly, as European nations contemplate these strategic shifts, European defense stocks have begun to rise, particularly amid concerns over the stability of U.S. defense companies. This trend underscores a growing sentiment that European defense firms may be better positioned to meet the continent's security needs in an increasingly uncertain geopolitical environment. As the situation unfolds, it is clear that Europe stands at a crossroads. The potential for a more autonomous and integrated European defense framework is not only essential for the continent's security but could also reshape transatlantic relations and defense dynamics. The path forward will require a concerted effort among EU member states to overcome historical dependencies and forge a common defense strategy that can withstand the challenges posed by both external threats and internal divisions. As we look ahead, the coming months are likely to be pivotal for European defense policy. The decisions made in this period will not only define the future of EU military cooperation but could also influence the broader landscape of global security. In an era marked by uncertainty, the question remains, will Europe seize the moment to assert its position on the world stage? Or will it continue to rely on external powers for its defense? The answer may soon emerge as geopolitical realities continue to evolve. In a significant diplomatic development, Russia and the United States have embarked on a path toward ending the ongoing war in Ukraine, signaling a remarkable shift in U.S. foreign policy under President Donald Trump. This agreement comes after a high-level meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed the future of Ukraine and the potential for improved diplomatic and economic relations between the two nations. The meeting, which took place on February 18, 2025, represents the most substantial engagement between U.S. and Russian officials since the onset of the conflict nearly 3 years ago. Rubio characterized the discussions as a beginning, noting 3 key objectives: restoring embassy staffing in Washington and Moscow, establishing a high-level team to facilitate peace talks regarding Ukraine, and exploring avenues for enhanced economic cooperation. Lavrov echoed these sentiments, describing the dialogue as very useful, highlighting that both sides not only listened but also comprehended each other's positions. However, the absence of Ukrainian representatives at the talks has raised alarms. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed his discontent with being sidelined, asserting that any outcomes from the discussions would be unacceptable without Kyiv's participation. Zelensky's postponed visit to Saudi Arabia further underscores Ukraine's apprehension regarding the trajectory of these negotiations as he seeks to ensure that his country's interests remain at the forefront. Trump has shown a distinct lack of patience for Ukraine's objections, suggesting that past Ukrainian leadership failed to prevent the conflict. He stated, "You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. reflecting a transactional approach to diplomacy that prioritizes negotiation outcomes over the complexities of international relations and human costs. The backdrop to this diplomatic shift is a history of deteriorating U.S.-Russia relations since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, compounded by the extensive sanctions imposed by the U.S. and its allies in response to Russia's actions in Ukraine.
Rubio noted that ending the conflict could unlock opportunities for collaboration between the two nations on global issues, a stark contrast to the isolationist strategies pursued by the previous administration under Joe Biden.
European allies have reacted with concern, fearing that their interests may be overlooked in negotiations that could favor a quick resolution over a sustainable peace. French President Emmanuel Macron underscored the need for security guarantees for Ukraine and emphasized the importance of a unified European response to the crisis.
In Riyadh,
the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has positioned the kingdom as a significant diplomatic player facilitating the high-level talks. This move may help rehabilitate Saudi Arabia's international image, which has suffered in the wake of past controversies, including the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
Nevertheless, as discussions unfold, the war continues unabated.
Ukrainian military forces remain engaged in combat against Russian troops, which continue to mount offensives across the region. Reports indicate that Russia has intensified its drone attacks, further complicating the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. As the situation progresses, the implications of these talks will undoubtedly reverberate across Europe and beyond. The potential for a renewed U.S.-Russia partnership raises questions about the future of Western unity and the balance of power in the region. The complexities of the conflict and the divergent interests of the involved parties suggest that while diplomatic dialogues are underway,
a lasting resolution will require careful navigation of historical grievances and strategic priorities. Looking ahead, the unfolding dynamics between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine will be critical in shaping the geopolitical landscape.
The coming weeks may reveal whether this new diplomatic approach can yield tangible results or if it will merely serve as a prelude to further tensions. As the world watches, the stakes remain high for all parties involved, particularly for the people of Ukraine who continue to bear the brunt of this protracted conflict.